Sisters and brothers, let me ask you something. Why do we spend our lives chasing what we can't keep? We fight for titles that can be forgotten, possessions that can be stolen, applause that fades the moment the crowd turns away. But here's the truth. Everything you see will one day disappear, and only what's eternal will remain. So the real question is this: are your eyes fixed on what fades, or are they locked on what will last forever? Imagine for a moment that you're standing in front of a house built on sand. It looks beautiful from the outside. The paint is fresh, the windows shine, and the porch is inviting. But as soon as the rain falls and the winds blow, the whole thing collapses because the foundation wasn't strong enough to endure. That's exactly what happens when we build our lives on what is temporary. Money, fame, material possessions, applause from people. All of these things can look solid, can feel rewarding, can even bring short-term satisfaction, but they do not last. They're like sand under a house. When pressure comes, they shift, they crumble, they disappear. And if your identity, your joy, and your hope are tied up in them, you collapse with them. The reason this happens is simple. We were never created to be fulfilled by things that fade. We were designed for eternity, which means nothing temporary will ever be enough for the soul. You can chase success, accumulate wealth, and even win the approval of the world, but when life shakes you, and it will, those things cannot hold you. That's why people who seem to have everything on the outside often feel empty on the inside. They've been climbing a ladder for years only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. Distraction is one of the greatest weapons against destiny. The temporary sparkles and blinds us from seeing the eternal. Think about how easily we get caught up in the rush of daily living. We stress over what others think of us. We compete to have the best car, the biggest house, the most likes online, and yet none of those things will matter 100 years from now. Even the praise of people is fleeting. The same crowd that cheers today can boo tomorrow. If you build your life on their applause, you'll find yourself constantly chasing validation that never satisfies. It's like chasing the wind. You can run as hard as you want, but you'll never hold it in your hands. And that's exactly what the pursuit of temporary things does. It exhausts you without ever fulfilling you. The irony is, the more we chase after what won't last, the less time and energy we have to invest in what will. That's why so many feel restless, always running, always reaching, but never arriving. They confuse movement with progress, not realizing they've been running in circles. But when your eyes shift from the temporary to the eternal, something changes. Suddenly, storms don't scare you the same way. Trials don't break you the same way. Loss doesn't define you the same way. Because your anchor isn't tied to the stock market, your bank account, your resume, or someone else's opinion. It's tied to something greater, something unshakable. When you fix your eyes on what is eternal, you start to see the temporary for what it is, a tool, not a treasure, a resource, not a refuge. Money becomes something you use, not something you worship. Achievements become opportunities to serve, not identities to cling to. Relationships become places to give love, not sources to fill your emptiness. Look around at history. Empires that once seemed unshakable crumbled into dust. Names that once commanded fear or respect are now just words in a textbook. Wealth that once glittered has long been spent. If even the greatest powers of the past could not hold on to their temporary glory, why would we believe our small treasures will endure? The reality is sobering. Everything seen is subject to decay. Cars rust, clothes fade, houses deteriorate, bodies grow weak. Time erases applause. But the unseen, the values of eternity, the promises of God, the reality of forever, those cannot be touched by moth, rust, or thief. This is why perspective is so important. If your eyes are only on the temporary, you'll make decisions that satisfy today but destroy tomorrow. You'll compromise integrity for quick gain. You'll trade peace for popularity. You'll choose shortcuts that cost you more than you ever imagined. But when your eyes are on the eternal, you can say no to shortcuts because you're not desperate for instant gratification. You can endure delay without despair because you know true reward isn't measured in minutes but in eternity. You can withstand rejection without crumbling because your worth is not based on the temporary opinions of temporary people. Life is full of storms, Financial setbacks, broken relationships, health battles, disappointments. If your hope is in temporary things, each storm threatens to wash away your foundation. But when your eyes are fixed beyond the temporary, storms may shake you, but they won't sink you. That doesn't mean pain disappears. It means pain doesn't define you. It doesn't mean loss won't hurt. It means loss won't hollow you out, because you know your life is anchored in something that cannot be taken. Picture a ship anchored deep in the ocean. Waves crash against it, winds batter it, but it doesn't drift away because the anchor holds it steady beneath the surface. That's the power of living with eternal focus. The storms of life may shake your circumstances, but they cannot move your foundation. You can stand steady in a shaking world because your roots go deeper than what the eye can see. So the question becomes, where are your eyes fixed? Are you living for the applause of today or the reward of forever? Are you chasing shadows or are you anchored to substance? Every choice we make reveals what we're looking at. When you forgive, you're looking at eternity. When you love sacrificially, you're looking at eternity. When you stand firm in your values despite opposition, you're looking at eternity. But when you compromise, when you hold grudges, when you chase only what shines today, you're living like this world is all there is. The truth is, every one of us is building something with our lives. Some build with wood, hay, and stubble, things that look strong but burn quickly. Others build with gold, silver, and precious stones, things that last through fire. You can't stop storms from coming, but you can decide what your foundation is made of. You can choose whether your life will collapse with the temporary or stand strong with the eternal. When you wake up each day with this perspective, it changes how you handle everything. Work becomes more than a paycheck. It becomes a platform to represent eternal values. Family becomes more than just people you live with. It becomes a legacy you pass on. Struggles become more than obstacles. They become training grounds for eternal strength. Even your failures take on new meaning because instead of being final, they become lessons shaping your eternal journey. The temporary will always scream for your attention. It will promise satisfaction, whisper urgency, and demand priority. But if you allow it to dominate your vision, you'll spend your life chasing what never lasts and miss out on what does. The eternal doesn't scream. It speaks in whispers, calling you to slow down, to look deeper, to live with purpose that goes beyond the surface. It doesn't promise you an easy life, but it guarantees you a meaningful one. And when your eyes are fixed there, even the chaos of life cannot shake your peace. When you look around at the world, it feels like what you can touch, see, and measure is the most real thing there is. You see your bills, your deadline, as your struggles, and they feel overwhelming. You see the house you live in, the car you drive, the clothes you wear, and you think those define who you are. But what if the truth is the opposite? What if the things you can see with your natural eyes are actually the least permanent, and what you cannot see is the most real, the most lasting, and the most valuable? That's why it's been said that the visible world is temporary, but the invisible world is eternal. Think about it. The things you can see are fading right before your eyes, even if you don't notice it in the moment. Your body, as strong as it may be today, is growing older with every second. Buildings, no matter how tall or impressive, are wearing down with time. Nations rise and fall. Fashions come and go. The applause of people shifts with the winds of culture. All of it is passing away. The stock market can crash overnight. The career you've built can be lost with one decision. The possessions you treasure can be gone in a fire, stolen in a moment, or outdated tomorrow. If your eyes are fixed only on what you can see, then you are holding on to something that is already slipping through your fingers. But the unseen, purpose, faith, truth, eternity, these are not bound by time. You can't put them in your pocket, but they're more solid than gold. You can't measure them with a ruler, but they are more vast than galaxies. You can't take a picture of them, but they outlast every mountain and ocean. That's why it's so important to train your focus beyond the visible. The visible world is like a stage set. It looks impressive from the seats, but it's not the whole story. The unseen is what happens behind the curtain, the deeper reality that determines the outcome. Perspective is everything. When your eyes are fixed only on the temporary, your problems look bigger than your possibilities. A sickness looks final. A setback feels fatal. A loss seems unbearable. But when you lift your focus to the eternal, your problems shrink in comparison to the weight of glory that lies ahead. Pain doesn't stop being painful, but it stops being permanent. Struggles don't disappear, but they lose the power to define you. You begin to see that this moment is not the whole picture. It's just a small part of a much larger story. Consider an artist painting a masterpiece. If you zoom in close enough, all you see are brushstrokes, smudges, and colors that don't make sense. Up close, it looks chaotic. But when you step back, you see the design, the beauty, the meaning. That's exactly how life is when your eyes are focused only on what's right in front of you. The struggles, the mess, the waiting, it looks like chaos. But when your vision is lifted to the eternal, you begin to see that even the brushstrokes you don't understand are part of a bigger masterpiece that is being painted for eternity. That's why faith is so essential. Faith is the ability to see the unseen. It's the lens that allows you to view life not just as it is, but as it will be in the eternal perspective. Without faith, you'll be trapped in the visible, tossed around by whatever circumstances you face. With faith, you can walk through storms with peace because you know there's more going on than what your eyes can see. Faith doesn't deny reality. It declares a greater reality. And that's why strength to endure comes when you fix your eyes on the eternal. People who don't have that perspective burn out quickly. They quit when life gets too hard, when the rewards of this world don't come fast enough, or when the applause stops. But when your eyes are on forever, you can endure suffering because you know it's producing something in you that temporary comfort never could. You can resist temptation because you know the fleeting pleasure it offers cannot compare to the eternal joy that's waiting. You can keep walking when life feels heavy because you know every step counts in the eternal story. Think of it. Out the difference between a runner jogging around the block and a runner competing for a marathon prize. The jogger might quit when they get tired because nothing much is at stake. But the marathon runner, whose eyes are fixed on the prize, keeps pressing forward even when their body aches, even when they're thirsty, even when the road feels endless. The prize gives them strength. In the same way, fixing your eyes on the eternal prize gives you the stamina to keep going when life feels overwhelming. Distractions are everywhere, and they're designed to pull your focus back to the temporary. Culture bombards you with messages that say success is measured by what you own, who you impress, or what you achieve in this life. But when you chase those things, you find out quickly that they don't last and they don't satisfy. That's why people who have it all often feel empty inside. They've been chasing the visible, but ignoring the invisible. They've been running after smoke while the fire of eternal reality has been there all along. When your perspective changes, everything else shifts. Suddenly, setbacks don't crush you because you see them as setups for something greater. Rejection doesn't destroy you because you know your worth is not tied to someone else's approval. Delay doesn't discourage you because you understand timing is eternal, not just earthly. Even death loses its sting because you know it isn't the end. It's just the doorway to forever. That's the power of living with eyes fixed on the eternal. So how do you train your vision to focus on the unseen? You have to constantly remind yourself that what you see isn't all there is. Every morning when you wake up, you choose where to focus. You can look at your circumstances and let them control your mood, or you can look beyond them and let eternity define your day. You can listen to the voices around you, or you can tune in to the whisper of purpose that speaks from eternity. The choice of focus will determine the strength you carry into every moment. When you cultivate this eternal vision, peace. It begins to guard your heart even when life is chaotic. Hope becomes unshakable even when storms are raging. Joy becomes untouchable even when circumstances don't go your way. Because what you're living for, what you're trusting in, what you're aiming toward is not bound by time, not threatened by loss, and not destroyed by pain. It is eternal, unshakable, and everlasting. Years. It's shaping your eternity. Too often we treat this life like it's the destination, when in reality, it's only the hallway to the true home that's waiting on the other side. Yet the way you live in the hallway determines what you walk into when the door opens. Eternity isn't just something far off in the future. Eternity is impacting how you live now, and how you live now is impacting eternity. That's why your daily choices carry far more weight than you realize. The problem is that many people live like this world is all there is. They make decisions based only on what feels good, what looks good, or what gets them ahead in the short term. But if this life is temporary, and it is, then living only for the here and now is like pouring water into a cracked jar. No matter how much you pour, it will never hold. The temporary can never contain eternal satisfaction. You might feel full for a moment, but the emptiness will return because your soul was designed for more than this world can offer. That's why your decisions must be shaped by eternity, not by the moment. When you forgive instead of holding a grudge, you're making an eternal choice. When you give sacrificially instead of hoarding selfishly, you're investing in something that outlives you. When you choose integrity instead of compromise, you're storing up treasure in a place where it cannot be corrupted or taken. These are not just moral acts. They are eternal investments. Every seed you plant here grows into something you'll see later long, after the applause of people fades and the possessions of this life vanish. It's like planting a tree. You don't plant it for shade today, you plant it for the future. When you choose eternal values now, you may not always see the reward immediately, but over time, and especially in eternity, the fruit of those decisions will be undeniable. On the other hand, if you spend your life planting weeds, selfishness, bitterness, greed, don't be surprised when your garden chokes out peace, joy, and fulfillment. Eternity should be the filter for every seed you plant in your life. One of the greatest deceptions of our culture is convincing us to trade the eternal for the immediate. It whispers, get what you want now, don't worry about later. That's how people end up sacrificing long-term peace for short-term pleasure, long-term security for short-term gain. But eternity asks a different question. How will this decision echo forever? When you look at life through that lens, suddenly the compromises don't look worth it anymore. The grudges don't feel heavy enough to carry. The temptations lose their shine because you realize the price tag is far greater than the momentary reward. Think about an athlete training for the Olympics. While others are eating whatever they want, staying up late and enjoying temporary pleasures, the athlete is disciplined. Why? Because they know the sacrifice today is nothing compared to the reward later. They see what others can't see. In the same way, when you're living with eternity in mind, you make sacrifices that others may not understand because you know what's waiting down the line is more valuable than anything you could have today. That eternal mindset also transforms how you see suffering. Trials and tests feel unbearable when you think this life is all there is. But when you realize that this life is just the beginning, that eternity stretches far beyond the pain of the moment, your suffering takes on a new perspective. It doesn't make the pain less real, but it does make the pain less final. What feels lehi. Like the end is really just a comma in a much larger story. That perspective gives you the courage to endure, the strength to stand, and the hope to keep moving forward. Eternity not only shapes how you endure, it shapes how you love. If you know your life has eternal significance, then the way you treat people carries eternal weight. Love is not wasted. Service is not overlooked. Sacrifice is not forgotten. Every moment you choose to love instead of hate, to encourage instead of tear down, to build instead of destroy, you are depositing into eternity. Even if the person never thanks you, even if the world never notices, eternity does. Nothing done with eternal love is ever wasted. The temporary world constantly screams for attention. It wants you to believe that your success, your worth, your identity are tied to how much you make, how high you climb, or how many people know your name. But eternity whispers a different truth. Your worth is tied to something far deeper, something unshakable. You could lose every possession, every title, every applause, but if your life is anchored in eternity, you've lost nothing that truly matters. The danger is that many people realize this too late. They spend their years accumulating what they cannot keep, only to arrive at the end with regret. Imagine running a race your entire life only to discover you've been running in the wrong direction. That's the tragedy of living for the temporary. But imagine finishing the race weary yet faithful and hearing the words, well done. That's the reward of living with eternity in mind. The sacrifices suddenly make sense. The struggles find their purpose. The tears find their meaning, because eternity will reveal the weight of every choice you made in the hallway of this life. Even in the smallest details of life, eternity can guide you. The way you handle your finances, the way you raise your seed, Children, the way you treat your coworkers, all of it matters. Eternity doesn't just apply to grand dramatic moments. It applies to the everyday. Every act of honesty, every word of kindness, every step of faith, no matter how small, is seen and valued. In a world where people are quick to dismiss small acts as insignificant, eternity says nothing is wasted. When you wake up each day with eternity in focus, your priorities shift. Suddenly, chasing status feels empty. Suddenly, arguing over trivial things seems foolish. Suddenly, living in bitterness feels like a waste of precious time. Eternity clarifies what really matters and strips away what doesn't. You begin to live lighter, freer, with greater peace because you're no longer burdened by the weight of things that don't last. And this eternal mindset doesn't just prepare you for life after death. It empowers you for life right now. People who live with eternity in focus live with purpose, direction, and strength. They're not tossed back and forth by trends or circumstances because they've anchored themselves to something unmovable. They become people of stability in a world of chaos, people of hope in a world of despair, people of light in a world of shadows. Their lives shine because their eyes are fixed on what others can't see. Life has a way of pulling at your focus from every direction. Pain demands your attention with its sharp cry. Pleasure tempts you with whispers of comfort and satisfaction. Distractions come in countless forms. Notifications on your phone, endless responsibilities, the noise of culture, all competing for your eyes, your energy, and your devotion. The danger is not simply that these things exist, but that they can shift your gaze away from what truly matters. You cannot run a race effectively if you are constantly looking at the crowd, the scenery, or even the competition. To win, you must keep your eyes on the finish line. The same is true in life. To live with strength, stability, and success that lasts, your vision must be fixed on the sun, a prize that never fades. Consider an athlete at the starting line. When the race begins, everything around them is designed to be a distraction. The crowd is shouting, competitors are jostling for position, pain is screaming from their muscles, but the champion keeps their eyes forward. Their focus is on the ribbon at the end of the track, not on the noise around them. That singular focus is what carries them through the fatigue, the doubts, and the pressure. In the same way, life is a race, and the only way to finish strong is to fix your eyes on the eternal goal. Without that focus, it's easy to drift, to stumble, or to stop altogether. Pain will always try to capture your attention. When you are in the middle of loss, betrayal, or hardship, it screams louder than almost anything else. If your eyes are fixed only on the pain, you'll lose perspective. You'll think the storm is forever when it's really temporary. You'll think the weight is unbearable when in reality it's producing strength in you. Fixing your eyes on the eternal prize doesn't make pain disappear, but it gives you the courage to walk through it without being defined by it. You stop asking, why me? And you start asking, what is this shaping in me for eternity? That shift in perspective changes everything. Pleasure, on the other hand, can be just as distracting as pain. Comfort can lull you into complacency. Success can trick you into thinking you've already arrived. The shiny promises of the world can blind you to the true treasure that lasts forever. Many people lose their way not because of hardship, but because of comfort. They forget the race they're running because the temporary rewards along the track feel good enough. But if you settle for the temporary, you'll miss the eternal. Fixing your eyes on the prize means you refuse to be satisfied with substitutes. You recognize that fleeting pleasure, no matter how sweet, cannot compare with the joy of finishing well. Distractions also come in subtle forms. They don't always show up as obvious temptations. Sometimes they appear as good things that simply aren't the ultimate thing. Work, relationships, hobbies, and even success can all become distractions if they pull your eyes away from the finish line. It's not that these things are bad in themselves, but when they become your focus, they prevent you from running with endurance. Fixing your eyes on the eternal prize keeps you from mistaking the means for the end. You use the blessings of this life as tools, but you refuse to let them become your treasure. Focus requires discipline. Just as an athlete trains their body, you must train your vision. You don't accidentally stay focused. You choose it daily. Every morning you wake up, you decide where to set your eyes. Will it be on the worries of the day, the desires of the moment, the opinions of others, or will it be on the prize that cannot be taken? Discipline doesn't mean life gets easier, but it does mean your direction becomes clearer. And when your direction is clear, your strength multiplies because you're no longer wasting energy on things that don't move you toward the finish line. Fixing your eyes on forever also transforms how you handle comparison. In a race, if you keep looking at the runners beside you, you lose speed and stumble. Life is no different. If you keep your eyes on someone else's lane, how fast they're moving, what rewards they're collecting, you'll rob yourself of peace and joy. The race you've been given is uniquely yours, and the prize waiting for you is not threatened by someone else's success. When your eyes are fixed on the eternal prize, you can celebrate others without losing your stride, because you know what's waiting for you cannot be taken or diminished. The eternal prize is more than just an abstract concept. It is the assurance of purpose fulfilled, promises kept, and destiny realized. It is the reward of faithfulness, the joy of hearing well done, the peace of knowing your life was not wasted on what perishes. And unlike earthly trophies that tarnish, unlike medals that gather dust, unlike applause that fades, this prize never diminishes in value. It remains unshakable, untouchable, and eternal. That's why it's worth fixing your eyes on. It is the only goal that will never disappoint. The more you practice this focus, the more resilient you become. When storms come, you stand firm because your eyes are beyond the storm. When trials drag on, you endure because your vision stretches further than the moment. When opportunities to compromise appear, you resist because you know the shortcut may give you something now, but steal something greater later. This kind of focus makes you steady in a world that is constantly shifting. While others are swayed by every trend and shaken by every storm, you remain grounded because your gaze is locked on what cannot be moved. And the beautiful thing about fixing your eyes on the eternal prize is that it not only prepares you for the future, it empowers you for today. It gives you joy in the middle of sorrow because you know sorrow isn't the end. It gives you strength in the middle of weakness because you know weakness isn't forever. It gives you peace in the middle of uncertainty because you know the ultimate outcome is secure. The finish line is guaranteed, the prize is assured, and that knowledge changes the way you run every step of the race. Every day, the world will offer you countless reasons to look away. It will wave distractions in front of you, magnify your pain, and dangle pleasures within reach. But you have the power to choose where you look. And when you choose to fix your eyes on the prize that never fades, your life takes on a stability, a strength, and a significance that the world cannot explain. You stop living as a victim of circumstances and start living as a victor with purpose. You stop being swayed by every storm and start standing with unshakable hope.